Hi, this is Katie Sweetman with Empowering Astrology, and this is another look at the astrology of March 9th through 15th, 2020. Yes, we are doing this slightly earlier today. Maybe it's in honor of daylight savings, but just needed to move my schedule around. So if you are new to my work, if you're new to Empowering Astrology, if you've not joined my live broadcast before, I'm an astrologer and psychic medium here in New York City. Empowering Astrology is meant to be a holistic look at the planets and how we use these planets for healing, for transformation, and living our best life. And so, I believe that the astrology and the planets and the signs that give us a roadmap. And if we work through let's say the symbols and the keys, that eventually we start to unlock our higher potential. Empowering astrology is also sort of like the intersection between the self and the astrology. How do we work with all of these many layers to unlock our highest potential? So a lot of what I share in my horoscopes, a lot of what I share here, I'm actually taught astrology by my spirit guide. So that's a lot of what I'm sharing with you in my work. So this week, March 9th through 15th, 2020, we've got a few things on the docket today. Mercury turns direct, so that's one of the big ones. It turns direct at 28 degrees of Aquarius. It's been retrograde since February. I believe it was February 16th. We also have a Virgo full moon. What does that mean? What is Virgo trying to teach us as a sign? What is that inspiring us? And also, what is that challenging us? We also have Chiron square the nodes this week, which I'll get into a few moments, but it is a more subtle influence in the astrology. It might be something that is running in the background, but I think it's important whenever there's let's say a slower moving connection to the lunar nodes, that it's speaking of a bigger, deeper, powerful evolutionary process that I think that we all need to pay attention to. That said, we also are coming to the end of Saturn and Capricorn. I think it's really important that we put that on our radar, because it means that we're coming to the end, or pretty much almost the end. Saturn will dip back into Capricorn in July, but we're coming to the end of a story that began at the start of 2018. And it's one of the reasons I love Saturn, as maybe difficult of a planet it is sometimes, that it makes time evident. It shows us the structure of time, and it shows us what we're learning. And so what can we learn about Saturn coming to the end of Capricorn? What is it trying to teach us? So that said, I did want to do a quick share, because when I wrote my astrology, it was kind of silly. I wrote my astrology for Friday. We were having this mix up of Pisces sun, Leo moon, and for me that's very an artistic combination. It talks about dance, talks about performance, maybe even sort of like psychic activity. And on, I think it was that Saturday, I was last minute invited to a dance performance in Manhattan. So it was like, look, this is literally the astrology. And I think it's just a good reminder that wherever the planets are, especially the moon, because the moon sort of gives us a flavor and feel of what is happening from, let's say, every 2 days, the moon changes signs. So this weekend, except for Sunday, the moon was in Leo. So it was a time that was meant to be about creativity and performance. That said, Sun and Neptune was in Pisces, and I was really, really exhausted. Sometimes we have strong Neptune in the sky, as we do right now. It can make us feel drained. If you're watching on the live broadcast, please tell me how you're doing. I'm just looking at some of the comments, and Patricia says, Katie, please save us all. I wish I could. There's obviously a lot of stuff going on in the world right now, which I think really dovetails into the Virgo full moon. I'm not what's called it's called mundane astrology. When you look at world events and you look at and to see what is the astrology teaching, it's not my lane. But I think it's very interesting that here we have a Virgo full moon that is, Virgo is one of the healing signs. People who have strong Virgo in their chart, they generally gravitate, not 100%, but they gravitate towards a healing profession or being of service, or maybe diet, nutrition is very much a part of like who they are and how they express their daily life. And so, something I say over and over again is astrology, and specifically the zodiac, it's the wheel of life, meaning that everything that happens in existence, both the good and the bad, it has some place in the astrology. It has some place in a sign. And of course, you're gonna see two sides to every sign. There's let's say the high side of Pisces, which is almost the realm of saints, is compassion, it's forgiveness. It's things that we read about in books and movies and seems so far removed from our everyday life. And then the other side of Pisces, which kind of can bring us into hysteria, illusions, like we don't know which way is up, what is correct. It's dreams. So there's two sides to every sign. There's two sides to Virgo. I think right now we're like kind of getting into this, like, oh my God, like, am I safe? Kind of getting into a little bit of that. Virgo, my joke is that Virgo is a secret Scorpio. It wants to control everything. So I think that we're really, really thinking about our day-to-day lives. We're thinking about the people that are around us. Are we safe? What do we need? Virgo is an earth sign. So this full moon is putting in the spotlight health, wellness, diet, fitness, nutrition, how we take care of our bodies. There has to be a sign that talks about health. And so here we are, the Virgo full moon is really putting in the spotlight our day-to-day lives, the rituals, the habits. Are we washing our hands enough? How we organize our day and our projects. And when I was writing about the Virgo full moon today, and the link is in the show notes if you missed my full moon report, it was one of those things where it's like I had to address the elephant in the room. I'm writing about health while there's a lot of health stuff happening in the news, whether this is something that's going to be with us for a long time or it's just for the foreseeable future. So that said, we're very hyper conscious about health right now, but not Virgo. It kind of plays double duty in everybody's chart. Yes, it talks about health and wellness, diet, nutrition, projects, work, discipline, discernment. But it also is a particular part of your chart. So wherever that full moon is falling, wherever Virgo is in your chart, is going to highlight a particular part of your life. So let's just quickly go around the zodiac so you know what this Virgo full moon is activating for you. If you are an Aries, this Virgo is your health and wellness sign. So this is a full moon for you to really put your health in the spotlight, to take some sort of action. This could be something as simple as making a doctor's appointment, taking a look at how you're eating, taking care of yourself. It's also about how you organize your day-to-day life, maybe needing to get organized. So Aries, this is also a time when maybe projects and work are also in the spotlight. Do keep in mind that full moons, and this is for everybody, full moons talk about a need to take action. There's a sense of urgency. We see things in the light of the full moon. Full moons aren't inherently bad. They're not inherently good, but there's a sense of like something is front and center. We see it. So for all the signs, like there's a sense of urgency and a sense of needing to take action, or something is very highlighted for you depending on where that full moon falls. Taurus, so this is the part of your chart that talks about you, the self, creativity, how you express who you are. So this is a time when maybe you're talents, your gifts, your abilities, your creativity is in the spotlight. This part of your chart also talks about children. So maybe children are highlighted for you right now. Maybe there's a pregnancy or something related to pregnancy, if that is something that's relevant to you, of course. It's also a full moon to have fun, which seems a little antithetical to have fun with Virgo. Sorry, I'm not picking on Virgo. But this is a full moon for you to really prioritize your, let's say, leisure time, having fun. Gemini, this is the part of your chart that talks about home and family, where you live, where you plant down roots. So this is a time when you might be making a decision about where you live. It might be a change in the home. It might be needing to, this is not necessarily a move. It can be a move, of course, but it can be making changes in where you live or changes in your living environment. Also, something around family members or parents might be very highlighted at this time. Moving on to Cancer. So this is the part of your chart that talks about your voice, communication, how you're heard, how you speak, how you listen, how you learn. It's also about information for you. So this full moon might put information in the spotlight. Do you have the right information? You might receive news. You also might be traveling a lot with this full moon, because this sign, this part of your chart that is, does talk about travel, more like trips and going around town and maybe like popping over to the next city or state. But this, I will say for Cancer, is a time about travel in general, especially with the sun in Pisces. Leo, this is the part of your chart that talks about money, how you earn it, how you spend it, what you value, what something is worth, your material life and your material needs. So this might put your bank account in the spotlight. You might be thinking about making a major purchase or just purchasing things more in general. There might be a need to kind of accumulate resources right now. So hopefully this doesn't mean that you are buying all the hand sanitizer and leaving nothing for anybody else. No, I kid. So this is about your material needs and your material purchases. If you are a Virgo, you are in the spotlight. So this is your annual full moon, Virgo. So something in your life, you might be in the spotlight. You might need to might get recognition for something. And there might be something about relationships as well, because the sun is in Pisces. This is one of the times in your personal calendar where it is about relationships, but hopefully you're in the spotlight for good reasons, Virgo. I know that Mercury is turning direct today, so you're even more highlighted because your planet is about to turn direct. If you are a Libra, did I skip over one? No. If you're a Libra, this is the part of your chart that talks about going behind the scenes, about rest, recuperation. It's the part of your chart that's the least physical. It's actually spiritual. So this might be a time when you're thinking about existential questions and meaning and searching within. Maybe you need to get some rest because for whatever reason you're kind of a little bit overwhelmed or overworked, and it's time to pull back from the world and search within. Scorpio, this is the part of your chart that talks about friends, community. It's maybe a social time for you, Scorpio. It's a time when you're connecting with friends, you're going out into the world, you're making connections within your community, you're seeking out like-minded individuals and allies. This part of your chart also talks about the future. So where do you want to be in a year, 5 years, 10 years? And what practical steps, Virgo, do you need in order to get to that place? So this is very much about the future for you, Scorpio. Moving on to Sagittarius. So Virgo is your career sign. So your professional life is in the spotlight, Sagittarius. So this full moon might naturally bring let's say a change in job, a change in position, a need to go in a new direction. There's something about your professional life, your ambitions that are in the spotlight with this full moon. You might be in the spotlight in some way as well, but it is a time for you to sort of, kind of get down into the nitty-gritty in that very Virgo way. What do you need to do in order to take the next step up in your careers and your professional life? If you are a Capricorn, this part of your chart talks about truth and meaning and faith, but it also talks about education and travel. So on the truth and meaning side of things, how do you see the world? What do you believe in? Do you need to stand up for your convictions? Are you having to kind of defend what you believe in? Do you not know what you believe in? There's a need to maybe, get more information, get more education. Maybe you're taking more classes. I was going to say maybe you're traveling. I know travel is a little bit of a dicey proposition at this moment, but I know that part of your chart does talk about long distance travel. If you do feel the urge to travel and you can't, maybe you're just watching some travel documentaries on Netflix or something like that. Moving on to Aquarius. So Aquarius, this part of your chart talks about the deepest parts of yourself. So you might be doing a lot of emotional and soul searching with this full moon. When the full moon arrives in this part of your chart, and everybody's chart is what's called the 8th house, there's a need to kind of look deep within, maybe facing your fears, maybe facing something from the past, something buried deep within. It's a perfect full moon to prioritize your emotional health, and maybe you're reaching out to a therapist, a counselor, a trusted advisor in order for you to take those positive health steps towards, kind of taking care of your emotional needs at this time. It also does talk about money and finance and intimacy and trust. So those are all kind of themes that might be in the spotlight with this full moon. Last but not least, Pisces. So happy birthday. By the way, this full moon puts relationships in the spotlight. So this is a natural time in your zodiac calendar for you to meet people, socialize, connect. Maybe a new relationship is coming in your life. Maybe, God forbid, somebody is leaving your life, but relationships are very highlighted at this point. So that's your quick look around the zodiac of what this full moon is going to highlight for you. And I put this in my full moon report. I did link that in the show notes if you missed it. This full moon is, Mercury is the ruler of the full moon. Virgo's ruler is Mercury. And it's stationing this, we say this in astrology, it's stationing, it's coming to a stop in the sky, and it's doing so at 20 degrees of Aquarius. Now, if you were to look at the chart, you would see that Mercury is a bit alone. There's no other planets around it. It's not making any aspects. So there's something about this full moon that does talk about how we are connected to each other on a society level, because Aquarius does talk about society on a social, on a friend level, on a group level, and how, I know there is a little bit of a theme right now in the news about isolation. Like, what does it mean to have to be isolated and to be separate from people? So this is something that might be weaving its way into the energies of the full moon. Aquarius is a sign that is about humanity and the world. So this healing energy of Virgo is very much focused on a more collective level as opposed to an individual level. That said, Mercury does turn direct later today as I record this. It will turn direct, I think it's like 11 something at night p.m. New York time, bringing to a close the Mercury retrograde that began on February 16th when Mercury stationed at 12 degrees of Pisces. as it turns direct, it's turning direct at a place it was in the sky in the beginning of February. So if there's been something that's been lingering, if we have not gotten all the information or a full resolution, it might mean that now that, Mercury has gone back to where it was in the sky that was in February, that we can kind of start to get, hopefully, that clarity. I mean, Mercury is a lot sharper in Aquarius than it is in Pisces. It's not that when Mercury in Pisces is bad, but when it's in Pisces, it's in a water sign. It's about intuition. It's about feeling. It's about being driven by your gut as opposed to rational thought. So that, Mercury will clear its shadow, I believe, later this month. I didn't write down the exact date. But let me know how your Mercury retrograde went, because my Mercury retrograde, it was just like like a filling broke, my modem broke, plumbing broke. This was like one thing after another. So I was just like, I'm really happy that Mercury is turning direct. That's just me personally. Real world astrology, everybody. So that said, the other thing that's happening this week, and as I mentioned at the beginning of this broadcast, it's a little bit of a subtle influence, but I think it's important to mention that Chiron is squaring the nodes this week. And when planets square the nodes, when they square the nodes, they need attention. There's something on a deeper soul level that we're trying to work and resolve, both on a personal level and on a collective level. I think it was February 12th or so. I know it was Valentine's Day week. Venus squared the nodes, and I actually knew some people that broke up, but there was this sense that relationships needed attention. It's not to say that was going to necessarily bring a breakup, but there was a sense that relationships needed attention because Venus was on the nodes. There's a sense of karma and destiny and things that are happening to us that are bigger than the moment. They kind of speak to the soul's journey and these kind of deeper themes that we're working on in this life. So here's Chiron. Chiron being this newer addition to astrology. It talks about the kind of those pain points that we all have, that personal spiritual scar tissue that we all have. So there might be something that's coming up this week. And I'm saying this just so hopefully you have some aha moments, and that's really why I do what I do, so you can have some aha moments that you see something about your life and you're like, oh, that. Chiron being this thing, this part of our life and part of our chart, depending on when you were born, that we have to work to heal and to transcend. That's something that maybe when we're younger limits us, that we learn to transcend it, and it becomes the most powerful thing in our chart because it becomes our medicine. It becomes how we show others that something is possible, that healing is possible, that being whole is possible. So Chiron in Aries, as it is right now, talks about courage and bravery, and the courage and bravery to move forward. So maybe this week, maybe not, maybe this week there's something that's really asking you about courage and bravery and how that speaks to something deeper in your life and a deeper story that even transcends this life, and how finding a new relationship with bravery and courage and moving forward shifts something on a deeper level. I just wanted to put that in your radar since that's happening this week. Lastly, I think, and I mentioned this at the start of the call, it's really important to know that Saturn is wrapping up its time in Capricorn. It first went into Capricorn in late December of 2017. That's why I've been saying since essentially the start of 2018. Saturn is the master timekeeper of the planets. When we are here in physical bodies, we are sort of under Saturn's rules. We are aging, growing up, bones, structure, maturity, commitment, lessons, and what we're learning. And Saturn talks about the structure of what we're learning. And with Saturn and Capricorn, since the start of 2018, we've had to learn accountability. We've had to learn a different relationship with work and mastery, because Saturn is like that long climb up the mountain. But when we get there, we've really earned it. We've really mastered something, whether it's on a professional level, on an emotional level, on a relationship level. So I like clear my throat because I just realized I'm kind of putting together the things myself for my own life. As a Scorpio, Saturn is in the sign that talks about voice, and this is something that I've talked about in previous live feeds. That one of the things that I'm working on is finding my voice during Saturn and Capricorn. And I would have these moments in previous Facebook lives where the mic would cut out, or there'd be like some sort of technical issue. And I saw it for what it was, is that it was sort of this avatar, this manifestation of a deeper issue around voice. So for you, depending on what sign you are, and you can go to my show notes, I have a link that says Saturn and Capricorn, sign by sign. If you need that refresher of what you're learning, go to that link. For Scorpio, it's voice. I can't remember what I was talking about before that, but there's something right now that you've been learning that since the start of 2018, and it needs to kind of come together. Saturn talks about manifestation. I think what I was saying before, I got a little something in my throat, is that while we're here in physical bodies, we're under Saturn's rules. So when Saturn changes signs, which is not unlike the hand on the clock shifting to a new hour, we're now going to start to live life and time through a new lens, through a new hour, through a new prism. We're going to start to learn it through Aquarius. And Aquarius says that the lessons that we're learning over the next few years have to do about community, friendships, the people that we network with, and the people that are in our social circle. Also talks about these bigger societal themes. And of course, Aquarius is a very big sign, meaning it zooms us out on life. We're like really far removed from the earth when we're in the archetype of Aquarius. But that said, Aquarius means something different for you based on where Aquarius is in your chart. So I'm going to be doing a webinar on Thursday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern on Saturn Aquarius and what it means for you. And if you're, let's say, going through the Saturn return, if you're age 29 or even if you're age 58, what this major time is for you as Saturn gets back to where it was in the sky when you were born. Because do keep in mind, the last time that Saturn was in Aquarius was in 1994. That's a long time ago, because Saturn takes 29 years to go around the zodiac. So I'm doing this webinar on March 12th on Thursday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern. I hope you can join me, because it's going to be a deep dive on how you work with this energy. And we will do a little, reflecting on what Saturn and Capricorn meant for you. So you can hopefully, when Saturn goes back into Capricorn on July 1st, through the rest of the year, because Saturn will finally leave Capricorn on December 17th, that you can sort of wrap up this part of your life, hopefully with a nice, pretty bow, learn the lessons, get the little pat on the back from Saturn, and then go on to the next level, Aquarius level. So Aquarius level does have its lessons that we're all learning. It's kind of the challenges that we're all learning, both individually and collectively. So hope you can join me for my webinar on March 12th. The link is in the show notes if you've missed it. I'm just checking in on the comments. Speaking of comments, somebody had asked this question on Facebook about starting something during Mercury retrograde, starting it on the leap year, because we had a leap year this year. If we had a February 29th. I think it's fine to start something on leap day on February 29th. I don't think it means that it's not going to be important. I mean, there's some difference of wisdom about starting something on Mercury retrograde, but I think the only thing that would be different with starting something on February 29th is that it's like a different numerology, which of course numerology is a different animal than astrology. So I think this was a question from Kim. I think it's perfectly fine to have started something. I would just note that when Mercury sort of turns direct and starts to revisit the place that it was in the sky on February 29th, you might have to sort of see things from a different perspective and sort of choose again if that's whatever it is that you chose. So if it's a job, you might get more information about the job, or relationship, you might get more information about the relationship as Mercury starts to wrap up its retrograde. So yeah, it's a big time, everybody. Let me know how you're doing. If you're watching this on the replay, if you're watching this on YouTube, on Instagram's IGTV, let me know how you're doing. How are you feeling this full moon? Like for me, I've just been exhausted, but that's more the Neptune energy. I'm just personally very, very sensitive to Neptune. And then knowing that we're on the edge of Saturn leaving Capricorn this week, next week, and needing to really wrap up a lot of things that we started at the beginning of 2018. I mean, it was the beginning of 2018 when I was still in my day job, and then some people started to get fired, and then the job started to change, and then I was like, I think this is my cue from the universe. The universe is saying, you're not going to be at this job much longer. So I started to make the preparations, and it wasn't until 2019 that I actually left my full-time non-astrology day job to do this. But here I am, and this is my own personal story with Saturn and Capricorn. But when these planets go into new signs, like it's no joke. It's something starts at that time. So as always, I'm just checking on the comments. It was good to connect with you all. I hope you can join me for my webinar on Saturn and Aquarius on March 12th, Thursday at 7:30 p.m. New York. If you can't join live, you can still register to get the video and the audio replay and ask me questions via email. If you want to, of course, have more personal attention, you can book a consultation with me. We can talk one-on-one what Saturn and Aquarius is going to mean for you. That link to my booking page is also in the show notes. Of course, follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Yes, I occasionally go over to Twitter. So just last minute question from Janet. What placements would you have to know if you were more affected by Neptune? Well, Janet, I know your astrology, and I know you're very affected by Neptune. You would have to, if you have a strong Neptune in your chart, you have Neptune on the ascendant, which I do. You have Neptune in aspect to the sun, the moon. I have Neptune in aspect to the moon. You have Neptune in aspect, usually like a conjunction or a square. The trine, yes, but you're going to feel it more with the what are called the hard aspects, the conjunctions and the squares, to the ruler of the sun and the moon, which I do as well. So whenever Neptune kind of does its things, I get really spacey, and I have to sort of work a little bit harder to stay here on planet Earth. That said, spirit is a little bit louder than usual, and I can, because I'm clairaudient, clairsentient, and clairvoyant, but that's something else from another time. It was a really sweet message from Patricia about my voice. It's funny you should mention lapis. I actually have some right here. So I've been getting an intuitive nudge the past couple of days to wear lapis. It is a protection stone. It is a mixture of azurite and pyrite. The ancient Egyptians used it as an amulet. So yes, it's funny that you should mention lapis. And I think I even have some, pyrite on me too. So I'm pulling out all the crystal stops. I think we need to be very practical and grounded and take care of our health right now and wash our hands and do the real world things. But the sun's in Pisces right now. We also have to do the spiritual stuff as well. It is a multi-level thing that we have to do. That's just me, that's just me. So I hope you all have a wonderful week. Stay safe, take care of yourself, see what this Virgo full moon is activating for you and how you can have more discernment. So until next time, take care. Bye.